Hello and welcome back to another Demis Hellen tutorial. We're going to take a look at mid-bass sound design for trance today, and this is geared towards more of the harder trance, so we're not really looking at uplifting trance. You could apply it, there's no reason why you couldn't, but we're going to look at adding this as a more harder style of trance, including tech trance and things like that. So this is the bass that we're working with. I've got soloed. This is part of a track that I've kind of taken out into a new project, and I'm just going to show you how I've built this. So I've taken this back to its original position with no effect processing whatsoever, and we only have Evade on there, I think. Yes, we do. So Evade, just applying some sidechain just to keep it in pace with the track as we start to add it in. So let's get onto it. So this is the bass sound that we're working with here. Now, you've heard me bang on about preset design before. Choose your presets wisely. What are you trying to create? How are you wanting to convey this sound into your mix? So I've chosen a more metallic sound. You can hear it's got a lot of metallic elements in it, and it's quite noisy. It's got a bit of white noise on the top to accentuate those transients. And this is done in rapid. So you can see here, this is the Blood Brothers preset from the Trance Essence pack. If you haven't seen that video of covering the Trance Essence pack and you want to go and buy it, take a look at my video and you can find it in the description to take you to the product page. So this preset is as it comes. The only thing I've changed is the release time. I think it was at 3 or 4 milliseconds. I've just reduced that release so it's a little bit of a tighter sound, and closed the attack down as well on envelope A, just to get a really sharp, snappy appearance in the track. So we've started with a really good sound. It's metallic, it's quite hard hitting, but it's well controlled at the same time. And we've got a few bass elements here. So we have a top bass. That's just phasing and flanging. This is now not the sub bass. This is just kind of the, we'll call it low mid roller. And then we have a sub down here. And that's doing its job. And let's get this started. So let's jump in and open up Pro Q3. We're only going to use Pro Q3 and then we're going to use Distortion, and that is it. We're not adding anything else into the mix. Sound design wise, after that, and placement and stereo placement is not really part of sound design. It is in a way, but this is physically modeling the sound. The first thing that we're going to do in the mixer is roll it off around 111-ish hertz, and I only know this because this is coming from my previous track, but I'll explain why. This is identifying the mid-range starting point for my track. It's roughly 111 hertz, and I'm going to roll this off quite sharp at around 30 or 36, so we'll just go for 36 for now. So it chops out all of that lower detail because we want that rolling mid-bass that I just showed you earlier to take priority in this area. We do not want our distorted mid-bass to be active in that area at all. So let's have a listen to this. You can hear there's a lot of detail missing from that low end, and that's exactly what we want. Now we're going to do some simple design. We're just going to boost a couple of frequency ranges that I want to accentuate and I want to hear in the mix. I want them to pop through and drive the track as the main focus, with everything else just supporting this layer. This mid-bass layer is going to be the bit that you hear, the driving force. Then the sub and the rolling part are going to provide the power of that drive. This is going to be the physical drive, the middle part that you hear the most. I'm going to create a section there and a section there to boost. I'm just going to listen to this and I'll just let you hear it as I'm sweeping across. And as you can see, we've boosted in 2 locations, as I said, and we just swept around really quickly. I could already hear them, but just use your ears to hear these frequencies. Don't look at the background visualization, the feedback that you're getting from the analyzer. Just use your ears, and sometimes it's better to use an EQ that's not visual so you can really hone in on the sound. Now the reason for this one is +5 and this one is +4. The reason for these is these are the 2 areas that I want to hear, and we've boosted a core area here and we've boosted this for presence. So this is the driving area, this is the presence area, and that's where I want to leave it really. I don't want to do anything else to it. We do have a problem frequency in this top area here, which is coming from the white noise, and you'll see that coming through in a second. It might be part of the preset design as well, but that's because we're boosting these areas, and it's obviously going to bring things out, especially with this distortion that's coming up next. So loading FabFilter Saturn 2, you don't have to use this. This is not exclusive. If you can get a distortion unit that has a multi-band feature, you're sorted. If you don't, you can use distortion and you can just isolate the bands that you want to actually work with. That's absolutely fine. And if it doesn't even have that as a feature, use distortion and then use an EQ after and isolate the bands where you want that distortion to happen. And as a starting point, we want to work out where these bands sit. So we're going to drag this up to 111 Hz, and the reason for that is we put our EQ there. And that's where the EQ rolls off and starts to identify it as a mid bass. The second one here, we're just going to drag up to about 10,000 Hz. It's roughly where I put. So we've got kind of the 100 Hz area to the 10,000 Hz area up here. It doesn't have to be smack dead on. We're going to move these about to taste and shape the sound. So for now, we're not going to turn the lows totally off. We're going to leave them up there a little bit. Let's just say about halfway for now, just to let those lower frequencies come in, because when we start shifting this band up, if we need to, we're not actually going to cut out what the EQ's not cutting out from before. So if we're cutting out everything below 180 Hz, for example, we're losing all of that detail that we isolated using the EQ. And next, we're going to put on some drives. So this is a default preset, and we're going to go down here to the styles of distortion, to saturation and heavy saturation. So I'll play this as I add this on and drag the drive up and alter the dynamics. So the dynamics here are essentially no processing at all. Essentially, there is a little bit, and then that full dynamic effects. So this is totally saturating the sound and affecting everything about it. So it's a bit like a New York compressor sort of thing. It's like a mix balance. So let's just put that back in the middle. Okay, here goes. So this is what it sounds like just on warm tape. You can hear it adds some nice texture to it. Warm tape sounds okay, but it's not the driving force that I'm looking for. I'm looking for something seriously heavy and over the top that then I can dial back and control. So turning that drive back down, we're going to go to our saturation and heavy saturation. You can already hear it starting to really drive the sound already without really doing anything. Now you can hear that it's totally oversaturated, but it's pulling details out. You can hear more of the delay. You can hear the rhythm of the delay. You can hear more flanging and panning. It accentuates everything that might be attached to that preset. So that's always something to remember during preset design. If you hear that and there's something you don't like, it's like it's popping out, like it's a bit of delay, but it's over the top. Go back to your delay and just adjust that in the preset itself or wherever it might be in your chain to control it back. As you can see, we have a nice saturated sound, and we can oversaturate this even more or less. I'm going to crush those dynamics like that, and we're going to do a little bit of sound shaping now. So what I mean by this is using these tone controls, which is essentially like a mini EQ, to pull out the same frequencies that we accentuated in the EQ. I'm going to remove some of the bass. I'm going to pull the level up a bit. And then the same on the highs here. We're going to choose heavy saturation. Drag this up. I'm going to remove the bass entirely. And now we're getting that white noise click, which is going to cause us some problems. So I'm just going to drag the presence down. Okay, I'm just dragging the mids up to add some presence in that area, but not this sort of really high presence, more defined presence. And you can hear it all sounds good. This is a little bit too high, so I'm just going to drag this back a little bit. You can hear now that that sound has got a lot less crispy in this section. If we drag it back to 10,000, you'll be able to hear. There's a lot more crispiness added onto the top of that, and that's not what I'm looking for with this mid-band. 8,200 is sounding like the crossover point in my ears. Now I can just control this section here. I'm going to boost it a little bit, but at the same time I'm going to drag this presence down a little bit more. Okay, so now we have a little bit too much low end in there. I'm not liking it. I want it to be a bit cleaner and a bit tighter, so I'm just going to drag it up till it sounds about right. Which is there, around 150 Hertz. And it gets even tighter about 180 Hertz there. So there's a little bit too much low detail again at 150, but about 180 it's sounding really tight, and you can see we're honing in on that next fundamental there. This one's the kind of the original area, and we want to cut that out. We don't want to hear it, and that's why we didn't want to drop that level too low. So I'll let you listen again from 111 Hertz up to 150 and then up to 180. It just tightens up that sound a little bit and focuses that distortion, that heavy saturation into one focused area where we want everything to be happening. Let's have a listen to that without our FabFilter saturation on. So don't forget we have Evade. If you're doing sound design, take Evade off. If it's or anything that you're using for side chaining, it might help you get that sound a little bit better. And this is what I mean by sound design. That is entirely different. It's like it's almost a new sound that has come out of that synth. And this is sound design that people, I think, are afraid to venture into. They think, well, that preset, that's what that preset sounds like. That's what it needs to be like in my track, and not necessarily. Do some experimentation. That's just using distortion as a key tool to reshaping that sound. If you have an idea and you want to create something a bit different, this is going to help you hone in on creating your own sound. So again, without inserts, and with the inserts, you can hear that it's really honed in on that mid-frequency area. And when we couple this with the low mid roller, put Evade back on. It's starting to sound really good, and we just need to match the volume levels up a little bit there as well. But all is good for now, so let's just boost that actually. We'll use a gain plugin here for now. So at the moment we are peaking around minus 7.2, I think. Oh, that was the peak before. So about minus 13-ish, and we need to get it to minus 6. So it's plus 7, so we'll go for a 6.5. Just get rid of that again. 6.5 boost. I just want to get into the ballpark area of that minus 6 region, so it's going to jump around a little bit. I'm happy with that for now. So let's listen to this in context without the inserts on, and then with these inserts on. You can't even tell that bass is there. And now you can hear it. And then obviously that boost in volume as well. Okay, let's go back into the mixer. I'm going to leave the gain on so we can hear the volume level of that bass, because it'll fade into the background and you won't even hear the sound at all. So there it is. very muddy, doesn't sound good at all, sounds very flat, very boring and dull. So let's tidy it up with a bit of EQ. So you can hear how dramatically different that sounds, and yes, before the EQ, it does sound like it's very bassy and everything because we've got all that lower end, and of course, just boosting these areas alone isn't going to help define that sound as a mid bass just with that EQ alone, but with the help of the distortion and that multiband feature of applying drive, well, extreme drive to one specific area, you can get that really harsh metallic bass line that has that real driving force. And depending on the pattern that you use to create that bass as well, because this is a very simple pattern, as you can see here, there's nothing special about that at all. You can use different patterns, you can use shorter notes and staccato notes and things like that, so beyond 16ths and things like that to create really intricate patterns and make that distortion react in different ways. At the same time, it's helping to create movement in your mid bass as well. And movement is what trance needs. It needs that driving force, but it needs to move and keep your ears interested. You need to be able to listen to that loop over and over and over and over and over till you just don't get bored of that sound at all. That's when you know you're hitting the right spot. Well, that about wraps up this video for using distorted bass. As you can see, with minimal effort in terms of just using these plugins, we've used an EQ, a distortion, and a gain plugin. That's all we've used. Obviously, we've got the sidechain as well, but just 3 things to get to that level. You can take the third thing away, which is the gain, because that doesn't contribute to the sound, that just boosts the volume, the gain of the sound itself. So these two are the only things that are really processing that. And with changing things inside the synth as well, or effects that might come before that, will help design and shape the sound as well in terms of movement. So if you're using a flanger, you'll be able to hear that movement with that heavy saturation on, because it'll start really accentuating all of that rhythm and movement and placement and everything else. If you take it away, you'll probably hear that it'll just kind of go flat, mono, and down the center again. So think about sound design and then put it through a distortion unit and just see what happens. Start doing some sound design creation. If you have any tips and tricks to share yourself, let us know down in the comments, because it does help everybody, and you never know, it might spark another video in the future. So thank you very much for watching. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and the bell icon. That will tell you straight away when I upload a video, and you'll be one of the first people to actually get the video before everybody else. And also hit the like button and drop us a comment. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.